Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Immigration Live Q&A with your host, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer. I'm very happy to be back with you guys, and it's going to be a very, very informative live today. Obviously, it's going to be driven by the questions that you guys ask, but we're also going to talk about some other sources of information that you guys can access, as well as my new immigration news reports that I've started now, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail after this. All right. So make sure, as always, that you tune in and you basically comment where you're tuning in from. I love to see it. I love to give you guys shout outs like Rashid here, who's from London. Now, is that London, Ontario or London, England? Who knows? Today, I want to address just some of the elephants in the room. And one of the elephants in the room is immigration processing. And one of the things that disappoints me the most is the fact that there are a lot of people that are trying to get YouTube views by posting fake news, essentially, about processing. Or they're trying to revive things that other people have done in order to get more views on their YouTube channel. And as we wait for people to chime in here, remember, hold off on posting your questions until I give you the green light, and then we'll dive right into those questions. So if you post now, then hang tight. Okay, so going forward, like I said, I wanted to just address one thing that I think many of you probably are not aware of. I indicate quite repeatedly that I am an immigration lawyer. Just recently, I dropped off from being the chair of the Canadian Bar Association's National Immigration Section. I'm the immediate past chair. I'm still a table officer, but all last year, I was involved in the preparation and submission of persuasive letters to the minister, to the immigration department, trying to advocate for all of you. Now, something was brought to my attention just the other day that I hadn't even considered. Well, if I shift over here to my screen and I flip over here to this lovely channel right here, which must have just been created recently, boy, they know how to do YouTube marketing far better than me, because they've got this More Good News Canada Immigrations, okay? So obviously titles mean nothing. Speed up processing of immigration applications. They're basically trying to capture all of your attention with old news. And how do I know it's old news? Well, for the simple fact that if you go through here, you can see that they basically quote me and the Canadian Bar Association's letter to Minister Mendicino throughout all of this. All they did was just read it, and I don't know what kind of automated robot did the reading, but basically a submission that we drafted back in July urging them to do something with the horrible processing times. And the interesting part is that I commented in here, so if I scroll down to the comment section twice, 2 times I commented in here with the actual link to the article, the letter that I wrote. So here's the letter addressed to Minister Mendicino, and you can see here at the bottom, signed off by the law reform assistant Nadia Syed on my behalf, to the minister, addressing all of the things that you guys are talking about all the time: family reunification, landings, expired COPRs. We've got just about everything in here in a very concise way. Processing of spousals was number 2, pathways to permanent residence, a whole bunch of things that we had indicated back in July, a few months back. And these shysters right here, please, do everything you can to shut these jokers down, because this right here, I'll show you. I posted a comment twice, and let me see if I can even pull it up. Maybe I can share it with you guys here. Not this one. Let me close. I know I took a screenshot of it right here. I posted this comment on there 2 times, and they deleted it. So the person who was actually the source of the information, I posted this comment in there with the actual link to the article right here, as well as a link to the Canadian Bar Association. And you would assume that if someone is going to basically take and read your entire letter and consider it as more good news, which there's no good news with this, okay? There's no good news with this. We've heard nothing. Everything is stalled out. This letter was right before they started to ramp up for the election. And yes, we are still pushing them. We're still on top of them. But it really bothers me that they would delete my comment that I was trying to post on here to at least give people an accurate representation of what is happening. And I don't know, maybe I'm just asking too much. Maybe my expectations are too high, but nothing irritates me more than when people do this, right? Like, create some original thought. That's, it's fine to quote me. I appreciate that, but at least give a link back. And so, anyway, so yeah, this channel is just been started, I think, Canada Immigration News, but it's a joke. I'm really, really disappointed with them, mostly because they then, let's see how many videos they have. Oh no, they've been around. I didn't even see that, but they've been pumping away videos like crazy, basically trying to generate. I don't know who these people are, but I do not like them. And yeah, I think it's really embarrassing that they would do that, especially given the fact they deleted my comment. All right, enough of that. Here's the Canadian Bar Association, you guys. This is the immigration section. You can see right here. Right in here, you will see submissions and resolutions. So over the course of my tenure from September of 2020 until August, basically 31st of this year, the immigration section has been extremely active lobbying for all of you. So there's lots of people that are just whining and complaining online, but we are doing everything that we can to bring these issues specifically to the government and to put pressure on them. So you can see here, the last one that I signed off, August, all of these are joint initiatives that were signed off on by all of the various all of the various CBA sections. So you can see here, these are all combined efforts, putting the full force of the CBA behind the things that we're doing, including the situation in Afghanistan. But here you can see temporary foreign workers. This letter is specifically addressing proposed changes that they're going to be making to the foreign worker program. Okay, and you can see this is one that I signed off on. You can see exclusion of counsel in immigration matters, addressing challenges in immigration application processing. This is the one that other site basically pirated and copied and read as a form of news. Go here for a source of information on what the leading professional associations, the Canadian Bar Association, what it's doing to advocate on behalf of all of you. And these submissions don't end here. When we do these submissions and when we prepare this information, we then follow up with immigration. We follow up with the department. So you can see here over the past year, Immigration Refugee Protection Act, adjustments to that. If I showed you how many submissions that we were involved in producing and generating, like you would be amazed. Economic threats to national security, call for release of CBA's internal policies. We did that in June. Code of Professional Conduct. So we commented on the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants. Digital Economy Partnership Agreement. We've got a ton of different things. Twice we commented on exclusion of counsel. We commented on the Canada-UK free trade consultations, Canada-Indonesia, CBA's resumption of removals with COVID-19, delayed return of application packages by RCC. That was last December. You can see this is we've done a ton of submissions, all of which I've signed off on and contributed. So you can see the regulations changes, appointment candidates to the federal judiciary, all of these, and even before lending my support to all of these various initiatives. So make sure you head over here to the immigration section, check out what we're doing, follow the research, and get up to date on the legal aspects of what immigration is doing and what we're trying to do to try to make this world a better place for you guys. But when it comes to going back to this, I don't know why it makes me so angry, but the reality is the fact that they deleted the link where I tried to show you the source documents and didn't even give credit back to the actual site where it came from. Well, that tells me that this is, well, I don't know. What do you say? It's just pretty lame. So not happy with these jokers. Okay, moving on. Okay, so there you go. Tons of stuff we're chatting about. Tons of stuff we're talking about. Thanks for joining. I had a little bit of a rant. I'm feeling better now. The other thing that I want to point out to all of you guys is that I am doing my own. I'm tired of these other groups basically posting old, outdated news with no actual intelligent thought or articulated positions on any of this. So if you go back here to the YouTube channel right here, the Canadian Immigration Institute, this is going to be your source, you guys, of all that's good. You'll see right here, I've now started my Canadian immigration breaking news updates. Now, with that being said, I want to rely on you guys. So if you know of something that's happened or a news item, do not hesitate to send us an email at info@holthylaw.com. So all you have to do is go to our site, and right at the bottom of the page, you can see our email address. Send an email to, let's see if I can find it. I guess I have to go back to the main site. Give me a second here. We'll click back. Okay. And we'll scroll down. Seems like the internet's a little bit slower today. Okay. I'm just looking to see if it's here. Huh. Interesting. Strange. I'm not sure why I don't have the email address on here. It should be. Anyways, you guys can figure it out. Actually, no, we're going to figure it out together right here. If you know of a news item or you hear of something or you think that it's newsworthy, I don't pretend to be on Johnny on the spot with every single thing that comes out. Sometimes I hear about things because of rumors that you guys have heard. Well, when it comes to any news item, don't hesitate to send an email to right here, right there. Okay, so that's the one you're going to send it to. info@holthylaw.com. Find it all over here. There's a good spot. If you know or you've heard of any news update, this is where you can send it, info, and then I will pull it in and I will give you credit on as a news reporter for me. So I want to have a lot of fun with this. These breaking news reports. You gotta love the ads here. Let's shut this down. Okay, so this breaking news report, this is where I'm gonna give you a shout out. I'm gonna set a little ticker. You can see the ticker going across the top here. That's where I will give you a shout out if you are the first to let me know about anything recently that's changing. Now, with that being said, so info@holthylaw.com, that's the source that you send it to. But I can tell you that that I will give you credit for it. And generally, I'm pretty on top of things, and there's very little that gets past me that I don't know about in advance, even before it's announced by immigration. But if you do send me an email, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Okay, now is the time to jump over and answer your questions. That's what this is all about. It is the Canadian Immigration Institute's Immigration Live Q&A, and let's give a shout out to a couple people here. Sophia is over in Kenya. We've got Shanthony in Montreal. Thisera, good to see you. And once again, like I say, every time Thisera connects in, I remind everybody once again about the upcoming course for Express Entry. TR to PR pathway is still open. Time is ticking though. We're just about out. Beginning of November, it will come to an end. But with the Express Entry right here, the cart is now open for the next session, which is October the 18th. All you have to do is click on here to get the course. There should be a link in the description here below. At least I hope there is. If not, you just need to go to the Canadian Immigration Institute website.com, and then you can find and get access to this and all the information you need. And if you scroll down, you can see that my good friend, I think we still have you on here. I just keep adding new ones on here from all the previous, there's the sir right there. He is a past individual who has taken the course, and there's many of you that are on here. So thank you for connecting. Good to see you from Sri Lanka. Okay, Sharon's in Burlington. We have Oluwaseun in Nigeria. We have, let's say, Nihu is over in Malaysia. We have Femi is in India. Chandran is Dubai. Rosaline is in the U.S. Wonder what part of the U.S. you are, Rosaline. Don't hesitate to let us know. Ralph, good to see you guys. Ralph's up in Edmonton. Mohammed's in Mumbai. Sean, yeah, brace ourselves. Hang tight because there's going to be a lot of changes. Okay. Good to see Spider-Man. I love superheroes when they attend. Karen from India. Sophia's over in Pakistan. Sunday's in Nigeria. Kelly's over in Winnipeg. Good to see you. University of Manitoba. That's my alma mater. That's where I completed my law degree. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, this Simon, he's like commenting about this here. It's like an automated voice. It is so irritating. Oh my goodness, it's irritating. It's not even a live human being. Their sole purpose is, I don't know what their purpose is. Anyways. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, and those of you who are super chatting, hang in there. We will get to you guys, especially you and Shul. We will get to the questions. Hang tight. And let's see who else we've got. We've got Bakong is over in South Africa. Hello to you. Sophia is in Pakistan. Hello, Sophia. Let's see who else we have here. We got lots of questions posted. Hold off on those questions, guys, because I'll let you know, and then you can post them. And that includes you super chatters as well. And yes, George, I'll give George a shout out. He's a past attendee. I will get to your question. And yes, does it make any sense? I apply under the TR to PR now. Hang tight, George. I will get back to you, my friend. Let's see. We've got tons of questions you guys are posting. Hold off on the questions. We're giving shout outs to people who are tuning in. TD, Oyakola is over in Toronto. Hello. Good to see you. And everybody is posting your questions. Hold off. Don't post them yet. I don't want to skip through them. Sanjan Preet is over in Punjab. Good to see you. And hopefully I haven't missed anybody else here. Ujef is in Nigeria. Hello. Oh, Sydney. Great representation there. Kishan is over in Toronto. Rosaline's in Utah. Very cool. My son was just down in Utah. He was attending a mission reunion for all the missionaries that were serving in Suriname with him at his old mission president's home in Utah. So he was just down there. Very cool, Rosaline. Okay, Josephine's in the Philippines. Tajinder is over in India. Raphael's KSA. Jowl's watching from the Philippines, soon to be in BC. That's exciting. All right, let's see. Manish, Haryana is Conestoga College. All right, you're over there. That's great. Harry's over in Bangalore. Great. Thanks, guys, for letting me know. The reason I do this is because I love to see where everybody's tuning in from. Victor's over in Germany. Kishan's over in Toronto. We've got Emir is over in Turkey, Ankara. Varanasi, India. Gitesh, hello. Mumbai, Vishal. Rabat, Ahmed is over there. And we've got Ricardo is over in Bolivia. My son just got the green light that in November he will be heading down to Chile. Those borders are open. We're really excited for him to be able to go down there and just basically give 2 years of his life to serving the people of Chile. Service, helping, doing everything he can. And that's where you really learn a lot about yourself, when you forget about yourself and you just focus on serving others. So I'm really excited about for Connor is going down to serve a mission for our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it's the privilege that I had to serve in Portugal. And my wife was also, she served in Portugal. My son in Suriname. My daughter was in Indiana in the US. And it's a big part of who we are. And I think it's a foundation that's built of giving and losing yourself in the service of others. And so, yeah, very cool. I'm excited to head down there to Chile. And good to see you, Ricardo. Thanks for connecting in. Azmir is Azerbaijan. We've got the reluctant fundamentalist, Jind Haryana in India. Great. Tinwad, it's good to see you over in Nigeria. And let's see what else we have here. Gurjan, India. Athish is over in Israel. Great. We've got Siddhanth also in Toronto. And we got another person saying hello. Elikim is over in PEI, Prince Edward Island, over in Atlantic Canada. One day I'm going to get there. I've never been to PEI. Vishal's over in India. Let's see. Raphael, Saudi Arabia. Let's see. We've got a bunch of people here. Thank you for letting me know, because I absolutely love to give people shout outs. You guys are tuning in. You deserve a shout out. Okay. And we're just about finished. We've got Rohan. We've got Rasman is in the UK, in Sri Lanka. Gagan is over in Dubai. And Ricardo says, U.S. family live in Utah and so many missionaries. Yeah, you bet. They're all over. It's a real life-transforming experience, that's for sure. Okay, Gitesh, yes, we've got you over in India. Sipas is in Iran. And Mahardeep is asking about Quebec PPR. Megan's in Toronto. JP is over in Colombia. Very cool. And Hola Flavio, over in Brazil. Okay, now post your questions. Now start posting your questions. Good morning, Amy. It's great to see you, and thank you so much for the shout out. So now you guys, now's when you post your questions. Okay. All right. So let's jump in here and see who our first question is. And I'm going to just make a note of that. And I'm going to jump up here really quick. And I'm going to hit first Anshul. Okay. Work experience. So Anshul says, sir, my work experience counts for 1 year while I'm studying. I am a software engineer, complete BTech, July 2021, start work August 2020, full time. This is a question I get a lot from people who are going through Express Entry. If you are outside of Canada, and Shul, you're going through the Federal Skilled Worker Program outside of Canada, it doesn't matter if you were going to school the same time you were working, as long as you meet all of the requirements of the Federal Skilled Worker Program for claiming work history. And so let's go here. I'm going to flip over to my screen and I'm going to do a search, Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility. I've searched this stuff so much, Google, we're sinking, man. Google and I, we're on track. So when you go through here and you look at skilled work experience, what is required, it's very specific right here. And you can see that there's no restriction anywhere on studying while you're working. You just have to make sure that the work experience you're claiming is all in the same knock. It's within the last 10 years, that it's paid. If it's an unpaid internship, you can see here, it doesn't count. Okay. But if it is paid work, absolutely it does. It has to be at least 1 year or 1,560 hours, not or, and 1 year of continuous work or 30 hours per week. You can meet this in a few different ways like this, part-time. And then you can see here, student work experience. You can see they've actually changed this. When did they add this? Man, it's been a while since I looked at it. Oh, I guess it was earlier this year. Well, this didn't used to be here. So props to them for adding it in. Work experience gained while you were studying may count toward your requirements if wages were paid continuous, meets all other requirements. Brilliant. Immigration is following suit to the instructions that I've been giving people for a long time. Excellent. Okay, let's jump back down here and I'm going to get back to the first question. And we will make sure that all the super chatters get their questions answered for sure. Okay, let's see. I'm just trying to find the start. You guys are posting your questions so fast, I'm not even getting a chance to get to them. Okay, football total. Okay, I've graduated from the university, so I'm applying for the postgrad. My wife had a valid open work permit until 2023. Do I need to reapply for a work permit for her? Join with my, no, you do not. Her work permit continues to be valid. It is valid until it expires, or, well, the regulations say a removal order issued against her becomes, well, basically she can be removed essentially, which is not the case for you. So yes, you do not need to change. That work permit continues to be valid. Good question. I like that. Okay, Rakesh says, hope you're doing well and most of the people are getting temporary file numbers through RCC agents and TR to PR pathway. What is the use of this temporary file number? People not are getting AOR. It's just their own way of tracking internally, but no, it doesn't help. It's not an AOR. There's so many things right now, Rakesh, that are frustrating me with the government. They keep taking on more and more things instead of dealing with the things that they have in front of them. The expired confirmations of permanent residence, all of the FSW processing overseas, the FSW candidates that are in Canada. I had 2 consults just this week with people who were wondering if they should now refile under the CEC because now they have their 1 year when they originally filed, got their ITA under the FSW, and everything is stalled out. So there are a number of issues that we are talking about. One of the things in terms of processing, we know that things are going forward at a snail's pace. There are permanent resident visas that are being issued. Passport requests are happening, but it is going so slow. And it absolutely must become a priority. And they need to communicate like I talked before. So yeah, good question. It's the only purpose is an interning tracking process for all the applications that IRCC is doing. But ultimately, no, it's not an acknowledgement of receipt. Very frustrating. Okay, Syed says, why don't they process inland FSW applications? For me, it's been 8 months and they don't even send me my GCMS notes. Okay, well, as far as GCMS notes, those are 2 separate things. You requesting your GCMS notes is something that you have the ability to request, but you can see they're shutting down all lines of communication. And this is something that I want to bring up specifically with Minister Mendicino. Or if he's not the minister and someone else is appointed, this is going to be one of the first things that we bring up as, like I said repeatedly in the past, the Canadian Bar Association, we prepare and we draft these submissions, and you can see challenges with processing due to COVID-19. This letter right here is absolutely going to be followed up with a request for a meeting to really hold the minister's feet to the fire. I know there's a lot of things going on, but this is just not acceptable. We are well beyond solutions for resolving this issue. So I hear where you're coming from, my friend, and it's not acceptable. Okay, DJ World, pending AOR for TR to PR and now creating profile. What should I choose for? Have you applied to EE before? Have you applied to Express Entry? The TR to PR pathway is not Express Entry, okay? But it says, have you applied for permanent residence before? If it asks, have you applied to immigration? Yes, those answers are yes. But when it comes to Express Entry, the TR to PR pathway is not Express Entry, so you don't indicate. Now, if you don't have an acknowledgement of receipt, and it's asking, like it does, have you applied for permanent residence before? Then in those situations, you have two choices. One is to say yes, and then in the file number to just put XXXXXXX, and then in your letter of explanation, say, please note that I have applied for permanent residence, and it is going through the TR to PR pathway, but I haven't received my acknowledgement of receipt yet, and I had to put X's because I don't have a file number. Or you put no, and then in your letter of explanation, you say, please note that I have applied under the TR to PR pathway, but I don't have a file number, so I couldn't answer yes, and otherwise it wouldn't allow me to advance because I don't have a file number. So either of those work, but that's the power of the letters of explanation. And if you guys do those letters of explanation correctly, then you can resolve 99% of the problems that people run into when they're trying to answer but just don't have the right answer for the box. Remember, Express Entry is regimented. You only have a limited number of amount of space. You don't have opportunities to just expand on your answer. It's the letters of explanation that make all the difference in the world, and that is what I've gone to great lengths to address in my Express Entry courses, how you actually prepare and submit those. Now, there's tons of reference letters all over the internet that I see people constantly using over and over again, these templates, which I'll be honest, is very, very sketch. Because if an officer sees that there are, well, I don't know, 20,000 people with the same reference letter for their work history, I think I'm going to have some issues and wonder, is this really legitimate? Do all companies use these samples? And instantly in that officer's mind, they're going to start to think, is this really legitimate? Well, in the course, I do provide samples, and you can see in the Mastering Your Documents section right here, I have a section devoted to records of employment. And in here, I do have a template as I scroll down to all of the download section. This is all resources that are available for people that subscribe. I have all of these resources, including a sample reference letter. I do. But what I tell my clients is, don't just copy this. This is an example of what you can do. And then I show how many 30 other redacted reference letters that have worked just fine, that have all different shapes and sizes. What's important is the content, and I have a record of employment checklist that I have created that people can give to their employers to give them guidance on exactly how they should set up their reference letters, so that things are done properly. But all of that is in there, and so there you go. That's all a part of the course, all designed to help you. And when you're in these types of situations, DJ World, that's how you deal with it. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Next question. Okay, this one's from Sean. Is there any information whether RCC would or would not recognize tier category 3 positions under NOC 2021 as a skill job under Express Entry? Sean, you're way ahead of yourself. I've already seen the videos. I've seen people out there. And what you have to realize is that with this whole shift, we don't know exactly what Express Entry is going to look like. Now, they may shift some B, like you guys are freaking out. Some B-level occupations, they may shift them down to not be eligible under Express Entry. But they could very well shift others up to qualify when they didn't before. Or alternatively, they could revamp the Express Entry process and target different individuals entirely, different groups, look at things in different ways. The government is free to make whatever changes they want to, and occupations are a big part of the decision-making. And we have had a lot of hints from the minister. We've seen in the budget that there's proposed changes. And until we see exactly what's happening, it's very, very difficult to know what they're going to follow through with and what they're not. There's a lot of fear-mongering out there, a lot, you guys. But until we actually have the actual details, and I'm not talking about access to information requests. And I think I asked someone last time to send me, because I can't seem to find that access to information request that pulled out some of the initial speculative overlays of what changes could look like with express entry. If you guys have that, please send it right back to, well, what did I tell you guys? I think right here, this one. You can just send it to info@holthylaw.com. And that reminds me, those of you who are tuning in a little bit later, remember that I've started now my, right here, my immigration news. And in here, if you know of any news item or you have a news tip to share with me, send it to info@holthylaw.com and I will give you credit. Unlike the jokers over here who have this automated robot reading stuff and basically plagiarized all of this and gave no link and even deleted the actual links that I tried to put in so people could see the source document where it came from. Weak, really weak. Okay, zooming on. Let's move on now to the next question. Okay, let's see here. Sedan says, I will be submitting my documents under CEC in about a week. However, my experience letter from my employer is dated from April 2021. Will that be a problem? If it is your current employer and it's dated April 2021, then you're only going to get credit for work history technically until April of 2021. If it's an employer you're no longer working for, then it doesn't matter as long as that date is after your work was completed. That's the only real factor when we're looking at this. Now, if you have a letter that's dated 2013 or something, well, I guess if it contains everything and it was an old employer, technically, I guess it's still usable, although I would be really seriously concerned about doing that. Ultimately, that's really what I look at when it comes to letters of reference and dates and validity and things like that. Okay, so that is Sedanth, and then I'm just going to jump down here to, okay, super chat here. So Shanthoni says, the RCC website processing time for Quebec self-employed, yes, is 51 months, but it is grouped with another complex program, Investor. Do you know if that estimate is accurate? I do not trust any of that, Shanthoni. So self-employed under the federal program, through IRCC, that self-employed program, all of those applications have stalled out. We're talking years. So 24, 36, we're probably pushing into. And so when you look at a time stamp that's 51 months like that, I never trust that. Now, it's entirely possible, as it's mixed, yes, with investor as well as with self-employed, that there is an averaging between the two. But when I see processing times that high, it means that those programs are not a priority for the government and they're processing them slow. And in this world of pandemic, when officers are being stretched and just simply do not have the same level of capacity that they used to because they're not working in the office, they're working home, all of these things suffer. And Shanthony, this is what we've seen repeatedly happen to any paper-based application, whether it's the PNPs, whether it is the federal government. And so do I trust this? Do I believe it's accurate? Well, it depends on how you look at it. They're obviously taking those, they're averaging those processing times out. Some are going faster, some are going slower. Personally, investor applications I know are atrocious and terrible. I have to assume that self-employed are going a little bit faster just because they're less complex. But ultimately, I don't put a lot of stock in it other than understanding, Shanthony, that 51 months, which is just obscene, is probably pretty close to the realities. Okay. So, good luck. I know it sucks sitting there waiting and wondering. And I've said this repeatedly, you guys, transparency. That's all we want from the government. Fine. If things are going to take 50 years, then be honest with people so that they can actually make decisions in their lives. All right. Okay. So we've got a bunch more. Let's flip back and I'm going to jump down. So Harry here, Harry says, really appreciate your efforts. I am FSW PNP Ontario candidate with AOR January 2021. Please suggest an intelligent timeline, Mark. Harry, I wish that I could give you one. There is nothing intelligent about the way this is being handled. Nothing. And when it comes to processing, there are situations where, like, take, for example, right after the pandemic, through 2020, through the summer, people were filing spousal paper-based applications, and they were just stacking them essentially because of the social distancing requirements at the visa offices, and there weren't officers there to process them and properly input the files into the system and acknowledge their receipt. They were just stacking them, right? And so it created this disaster, and that's fine. I understand that. But now there is no excuse. Like, this government needs to step up and they need to sort this out. I've been very, very patient as a you know, I guess as someone who comments on immigration, my involvement with the Canadian Bar Association, I've been very, very careful not to be too harsh on the government, the Liberal government, nor immigration, IRCC. But we're at the stage now where they just have to get their acts together. This is not acceptable. And processing is one thing, but the lack of communication, I think, is the most egregious aspect of this. So, yeah, I've got people who were far longer than you, Harry. You're January 2021. I've got people who filed in December 2019 that are stuck in the same limbo that you are. So my heart goes out to you, Harry. Okay, let's see what's next. We'll just jump down. I want to make sure that I'm hitting the super chatters. Awesome. Look at that. We've got Rudolph. He's back again. Big shout out to you, Rudolph. Not quite sure what I'm shouting out about, but man, you got to change that name. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got. I think we're just about caught up. We've got a couple. Okay. Data says, started working while I wasn't doing my bachelor's degree and completed my degree in 1 year of work experience. Am I eligible? I think I just talked about this one, Data. We just talked about, and I literally just went through it with the other individual. If it's outside of Canada, okay, and you're applying, the provincial nominee programs follow the same path. Generally speaking, it depends upon the PNP's rules. Remember, there are some PNPs that specifically want to ensure that the work experience that you have is related to your education. And so in those situations, they could very well not accept the work history if it was obtained before, but there's discretion within the officers. Ultimately, the work history that you have, if it's related to your education, if you've not yet completed your education, then it's going to be difficult to justify that, yes, this work history that I have that I completed before I actually graduated is not, you know, that they're linked. But you can always make the pitch. And I had a long conversation with someone who used a lawyer in Ontario. Unfortunately, it was a lawyer who dabbled in real estate and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I know they just relied on their paralegal to do the underlying work and didn't pay attention to the NOC code and the actual education. And the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program was bounced. And so in those situations, you have to do your work. You have to pull up the transcript. You have to show how the courses relate. And in your situation, Data, if that's the case, you worked and then you were unable to, your education wasn't completed before you started work, then I would start to pull out even classes that you obtained in your transcript. I would say, look, I took all of these 1, 2, 3, 4 semesters of courses and they all relate specifically to the work. And I completed all those before I started the work, but the employer knew I was already doing work, that I already had some education and that I was completing it. So they wanted to hire me earlier, and I would make the pitch, right? If you have no choice, that's what you do, Data, you make the pitch. But it's entirely possible for the PNPs that if that's a requirement, that an officer could use that to exclude. So good question, Data, good question. Okay, Sharon says, okay, pricing analyst, okay, 1122, maybe. Duties mentioned under this code doesn't match my job duties. How can all the titles given in the NOC 1122 have the same 7 duties? Do the duties have to match? Sharon, that you have to show or demonstrate that you've performed a substantial number of those main duties. And when we go back here and we jump into the eligibility for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you will see here that they are very clear. You know, that the that when you're assessing it right here, you must show that while working in your primary occupation, you perform the duties set out in the lead statement. And this includes all the essential duties and most of the main duties. The regulations specifically state a substantial number of the main duties. And yes, when you have specific NOC codes like 1122, and let's just go in and take a quick peek at 1122. So NOC 2016, and yes, it's still valid. We're still using it, you guys. Nothing has changed at this stage. Once it changes, then we can talk about the realities. But this NOC, like some NOCs, are very broad that cover a whole host of different real job duties with or positions within, within the same NOC code. It covers a ton of professional occupations. It's basically where it doesn't fit, then they slot everything in. So you can see these duties right here are quite broad. They cover a lot of different areas, just like you could see here, all these different titles. But these duties, you look at these, and anything that says may, you can exclude that as not being an essential duty right here. So essential duties. So anything that says may is not essential. So then you're going with these right here. And yes, you have to do the very, very best that you can to show that you have performed a substantial number of these. Now, to be safe, if I'm looking at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So to be safe, I'd be shooting for at a minimum 4. You know, if you had 5, well, that's probably more of a slam dunk, but 4 at least. And here's the issue, okay? When you're in an occupation, it has to fit into some NOC. It has to fit somewhere. So one of the things that I do in my course is I teach people how to use my basically, I call it my NOC selection tool template, to demonstrate to an officer why this, if I keep flipping around here, why this particular NOC code is actually the closest one to you. There's no other NOC code that fits, and maybe you don't have all of these, but for the ones that apply to your position, you have a substantial number of those. And that's the difference. This stuff is not easy. You don't always hit perfectly into a NOC code, and that's where the advocacy comes. That's where I spend more time doing consults for people. And remember, guys, whenever I ring this bell, that basically means that I want you guys to slide over, because your question really is more built on me getting a whole lot more information. And I do a lot of NOC selection reviews with clients. And as long as your employer is willing to play ball with you, Sharon, then you can often go through and identify duties that might be listed that are similar to things that you've done. You never ever want to misrepresent in any way duties just to make them fit. That is misrep, and that's bad. But sometimes the way the duties are worded in the NOC, they are close to something that you've done. And then in my NOC selection tool with the course, go over there and subscribe to it, you guys. There have been so many people that have gone through that course that are now PRs. It is the best tool out there to help you navigate your way through in a DIY format. And remember, starting on at the start of the actual class, which is going to be in I think it's the 19th, it starts for 1 week, 1 hour every evening, you get me. So you get to ask those specific questions that are not otherwise, that you can't find in the course, but that's going to be hard to not find them. So there you go, Sharon. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Okay. Kanav says, when shall the biometric instruction letter come from CAC after receiving AOR? What could be a normal timeline? Kanav, there is no normal timelines anymore with anything. The pandemic has thrown everything upside down. It's all over the map. Traditionally, when Express Entry was right before the pandemic, we'd get those biometric instruction letters 2-3 days after you get your EAPR. Like, it would come within a week. Now we're probably closer to a month. But that's the general range. Some people get them sooner. Some people, it's longer, Kanav. So I wish I could tell you. Okay, Veda says, when would we have FSW, QSWP? How long will it take? Veda, this is something that I just can't answer. All I can tell you is that I'm advocating on behalf of everyone to encourage the government to be more transparent and to prioritize people that are already in the queue. And I think as we look at the rounds of invitations, and if we flip here, let's just take a quick peek over and see what we have here. I'll just pull it up, and you can see, let's see if there's any action today. So as of today, September 29th, nothing. So the last one was the PNP. So we're the 6th today. I think a lot of people were wondering if we were going to see a CEC, and we've seen a real stall out with that. And I think that is an indication that officers are swamped, that dealing with the Afghan situation, trying to process the TR to PR pathways, trying to process the existing express entry applications. That's why we are seeing a slowdown in those. And for those outside of Canada, personally, that have applications pending, I see that as a good sign. Those of you who are looking to get an ITA through the Federal Skilled Worker Program, my heart goes out to you guys, because it's not a good sign for you guys. It means that they're overloaded, and they're going to have to get through these backlogs before they can reinitiate bringing in large volumes of outlanders. But for those who are stuck with expired COPRs, or waiting for their COPR, or who are in the midst of the eligibility assessment, whatever stage you are, I think this is positive, because they're now turning their attention to trying to process the people that are stuck. And I think that's only right in the circumstances, given what they have put people through. So I don't have an exact timeline for you, Veda, but we're advocating, we're fighting, okay? All right, let's jump here. Nixon, big shout out to you. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate that. Okay. All right. Okay. JP says, let's get to JP right here. Okay. JP says, okay, have a postgrad work permit, started working as a geotech 6 months ago in a rotational basis, 3 weeks in and 3 weeks off. Ugh. Okay. I saw the government just counts 30 hours per week, and I work around 70 on paper. Even if I work 1 year, are all my hours counted? So remember, when you're going through this process, obviously, when you have a rotational situation, and JP, I'll actually ring the bell and recommend that you book a consult. At the very least, subscribe to the course so that we can work through this. When you're on a rotational basis, the good thing about CEC is that it doesn't have to be continuous. Obviously, if you're on a postgrad, it's, you're going through CEC. So you can total the hours up, add them up, and accumulate them. Now, you'll remember, like you've identified there, that they just count the 30 hours. So it's going to cause you to have to work more hours longer than 1 year in order to meet the 1 year period. When it comes to the rotational basis, immigration is not designed to accommodate for these unique situations. So how long you have to wait, that depends, but that's why in the course I have those hours of work calculators and things like that to help you sort those things out in the course. But also you might want to book a consult with myself or Alicia, and then we can get set up to help you navigate through that, because it is complex for sure. But yeah, you're going to have to work. You're not going to be able to just take more than the 30 hours and average them on those weeks when you're working really, really busy rotation. It sucks. It does, JP. But that's the reality. They won't let you just add them all up and then, and then say, okay, in this 1 year period, I actually worked 1,560. At least they're not going to allow you to count more than those 30 hours per week. And you've identified that. Okay. Let's see if there's any others. Okay. Okay. Does the pay matter for CEC FSW for work experience? As long as that pay in the context of, CEC is, you're not working less than minimum wage, as long as the pay doesn't seem so crazy off from what a person would normally be paid in Canada, or then it's not going to be an issue. So CEC, FST, Federal Skilled Trade, you have there, Nixon. So for example, if someone says I'm an astrophysicist and I'm being paid $15 an hour to do that, immigration's probably going to look at that and say, does that make sense? But as long as you're in the range, then it's usually not going to be an issue. Okay, let's close this off here. And I think, okay, all right, so now we'll jump back. I think we've got to all the super chats. So now we're going to go back here and we're going to start hitting some more of those individuals who have been posting questions. Okay, let's see where we leave off at. Let's see here. Okay, Rohit says, I'm an express entry pool. Will it affect my employer's LMI application via Global Talent Stream? Okay, good question, Rohit. If you're outside of Canada, having a permanent resident application in the queue may be a factor that an officer looks at when determining whether or not they will grant any temporary visa, whether it's a visitor visa, a study permit, or work. Generally speaking, if you are in a very, very senior occupation, it's being sponsored by a large company that is going through the global talent stream. Generally speaking, it will rarely be an issue. However, understand that an officer always has the ability to determine how they want to proceed. And if some officer gives more weight to the fact you have a permanent resident application in the queue than another, or in this case, just a profile in the pool, they can't use just that as a factor for refusing your work permit. And so because of that, we rarely see those refusals. But some countries, the officers are jerks. Like, they look for every reason in the world to try to refuse. And obviously, if you're working in a lower knock, a lower skill level position, then sometimes they're harsher on that than they are with someone who's going through the global talent stream. So it's possible, but it's unlikely. That's the best way I can describe it, Rohit. Okay. Okay. And this, Jimmy, I think I answered this. There's no information on how they're prioritizing anything. We just do not know. Okay. Wojciech says, hello, Mark. I have received an email back from Marco Menichino's office regarding my query about FSW draws. Where can I forward the email, as it is way too long to post it here? Same place, just like I talked about. That would be great if you can send that, and then let's talk about it. I'll do a news report right after this, and we'll talk about that, Wojciech. So I will send, and all you have to do is just send it right here, my friend. Forward it to info@hulthilaw.com. And yeah, I will do. And the beauty of these news reports, when I'm able to jump on and do these news reports right here, is that it takes me 2 seconds to flip them around. So it's all queued up. I just have to go on and then just go live. Okay, that would be awesome. I'm going to give you one of these, my friend. Not one of those, one of these. That's awesome. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Let's share everything we can with each other, share it to the world, and then band together and just keep putting pressure on the government. Okay. All right, let's see what's next here. Okay. When a knock code mentions multiple job titles under the duties instead of mentioning actual duties, and we only fit into one of those job titles, how do we fulfill the 75% match? Code 5226. Okay, well, let's take a look at 5226. So we'll go back to the knock right here, and then we will pull up 5226. Okay, and this is what happens when we have these catch-all knock codes that are designed to capture everything. So you can see you have so many other things listed in here. And when you're going through here, anytime that you have multiple positions right here, then all you have to do is the one that fits you. So you don't have to do, if you're a makeup artist, you don't have to do stunts and, and be lighting. You choose one of these, and that's the only one that you have to match your duties to. Okay. And yeah, this is like a catch-all for everything. So you choose the one that fits you, and that's the one that you need to match. Okay. Good question, Mariana. I'll give you applause too. That's a good one. Okay. All right. So back to George here. So George says, please advise if my CEC, GSMS notes say eligibility pass and criminality info sharing all pass except security check is not started. Does it make any sense I apply under TR to PR now? George, all of this is going at a variety of different paces. And you and I, we talked about this in the course, the challenge of knowing what to do. There is no restriction whatsoever in proceeding with the TR to PR pathway. One of the things we talked about, though, in the past is, and in previous live sessions, is the reality that officers do not refuse TR to PR pathways for simple little omissions like they do with express entry. So you're already well into that game. If you choose to go through the TR to PR pathway, personally, at this stage, George, I can't see any world where the TR to PR pathway is going to get processed before your express entry. But why do we consider TR to PR pathway? Well, we considered if we have some doubt about our express entry. You've indicated that eligibility is passed and criminality and everything is all done. So it's just waiting to be finalized. But people, if they have any doubt and they think immigration is going to be cruel and refuse their express entry, then in those cases, I like to keep my options open. But George, that's, you know what? I can't see any world where your TR to PR pathway would be processed before express entry. But if you want a backup, there's no harm in filing it. 0. Okay. Okay. Thacy says, does it hurt your file if you send a web form for clarification on applications? No, at all. It does not at all. In fact, I'm so upset with immigration. Now, you guys probably know now that they're not even responding to it. Like if you call the call center and you want a status update on your file, they don't even respond. And this is what I have. If I had a boo, like I've got an applause here. If I had a boo, I would boo right now, because this is the part that I am most frustrated with immigration, is the lack of transparency. It's just not acceptable to say, sorry, we're too busy. We can't tell you where your application is in the queue. That is simply not acceptable. And yeah, so sending it, no, it doesn't hurt it. Okay, let's jump over, just about out of time today. Let's get to our, I saw a couple others come in here. Okay. Okay. I think I answered JP's already about that. So I did get that one, JP. We talked about your situation. Okay. Nixon says, does the pay matter? Okay. We covered that one as well. It just has to be in the range. Okay. Fred says, Mark, I'm currently uploading documents for my PR application. Fred, you need to take the course, my friend. Okay. I'm wondering, where do I upload my IELTS results, as there's no place to upload it? Should I just upload it in education as well? What I teach in my course is that in the education history, when you're uploading those documents, there's only one slot now. They used to, if you said you studied in Canada, it used to trigger a request for transcripts. Now I'm not seeing that anymore in the document checklist. Now we just see one spot for education. Yes, they don't ask for a copy of your ECA. They don't ask for a copy of your IELTS or your CELPIP exams, but I routinely include both, yes, in the education upload. Why? Because I've had clients who've received a request to provide an IELTS after the fact, and then they did it improperly. They didn't upload it correctly, and their application was rejected because they didn't provide it. So now I do it. It's already done. So do I advise people to go get their RCMP clearances if they're in Canada? No, I do not. I do not advise people to do that, because it's not a specific requirement. But the IELTS and the CELPIP and the ECAs, the WEST, the IQUIS, whatever you're using, you already have those. So I always advise people to upload those into the education section. Always, always, always. Okay. All right. Polly says, if I hold a post-grad work permit, is there a limit of time I can be outside Canada? Because I'm planning to travel for like 2 months, come back and apply for my PR. Polly, there's no specific time. The post-grad work permit doesn't expire except for the expiry date, or a removal order becomes enforceable. Those are the two situations in which a work permit expires. With a post-grad, no, you can, but the only issue is you have to be able to come back in. So if you're coming from a country that doesn't require a visa, then your ETA just needs to be valid, which allows you to get on the plane and board. We don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. I can't see a world with the vaccination rates going up where they're going to close the borders again. But you'll remember during the height of the pandemic, when they closed the borders, post-grad work permit holders who did not have a job were being kicked back and weren't allowed to come to Canada. And so that's the only risk, I tell you, is that from an immigration perspective, that's one thing. There's no issues. Your post-grad won't expire as long as you have a visa to travel, or an ETA. If you're from a visa exempt country, then that's not going to be an issue. But you have to be aware of what's happening with the travel restrictions. Some of our fine friends in India who, basically Canada closed the borders to them, had post-grad work permits, even had jobs that they wanted to return to and couldn't. So there's always risk when you leave because of the pandemic. But from an immigration perspective, a work permit doesn't expire in those circumstances just because you're away. And there's no set period of time, even if you're away. It's still valid as long as you have the ability to come back into Canada. Okay, Nixon, he says, is there any way we can extend our stay as a worker after the post-grad work permit expires, other than LMIA-based work permit if my points are very low? Nixon, there isn't. There was the period of time where if you fell into the category where that one time, based on humanitarian and compassionate factors, that 18-month post-grad extension was there. Other than that, the bridging work permits are all based on filing or having acknowledgement of receipt or a PR application submitted. The LMIA is the critical component to allow people to extend. Now, if you have a spouse who also has a work permit, there's those options as an accompanying spouse. But when your points are really low, it's very, very difficult, Nixon. There are very, very few options. All right. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay. Sharon, just purchase access to the course and then you can get answers to all the questions. Okay, where do I attach letters of explanation if I'm not showing proof of funds under CEC? Okay, under the client info or the financial support section, since I mentioned in the start, I was bringing funds. All you need to do in the financial section where it asks for your settlement funds, your proof of funds, just upload a letter, your letter of explanation in that spot there that says, please note, I was drawn under the CEC and therefore I do not need to provide settlement funds. And that's what immigration tells us to do. So even though you put a figure or a number in there, that's where you put it, right in that section. Okay. All right. Let's jump back now to some other individuals who were asking questions previously. So we'll jump back to them. Okay. Let's see if we can find it. There were lots of questions today. So and we're actually into overtime right now. So we'll answer a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. Okay, Yasha says, extension of public policy that gives international students opportunity to extend work visa. We haven't heard anything about that, but that will be a breaking news if there is. Absolutely, it will be a breaking news. And I'm just looking here to see if we got it. And remember, like I said before, you guys, if you do have something that you think would be a great breaking news item, just send an email to info@healthylaw.com and send me the link to the source of it. Give me as much information as you can, and then I'll make sure to highlight and give you credit for your help in breaking the latest immigration news. That'll be kind of fun, I think, personally. Okay, let's zip down here. Okay, I'll address this one, Yusuf, but it's probably going to encompass everybody that's stalled out right now. I'm an FSW, Outlander, Rabbit, Visa Office, AOR, September 2019. Yesterday, just as many others, I received a ghost update. Many say it was a glitch. Any insights? It has been spreading through all of the ranks of the immigration lawyers as well. And absolutely, there has been issues with these glitches. So these ghost updates and things like that, you can see they're starting to do things now. And the problem is they have these massive backlogs of applications, and they're trying to figure out ways to group them, to be able to batch them, to be able to process them quicker. And that's why we're seeing these issues, Yusuf. So I personally feel like it is a glitch. They haven't told us. Once again, they're not transparent about this stuff. And so all we can do is just watch and pay attention and talk to our friends. And I do the same with my other immigration lawyers across the country. We share insights, we share our experiences. And that's often when the government is so opaque, when there is such a lack of transparency, that's all you can try to do is rely on anecdotal reports. Now, obviously, like I said, when the new minister or the existing minister is around, we'll definitely schedule another call to talk about these issues and to bring up some of the challenges that they know exist. But it's important for us to put pressure on them. Okay, I'll finish off the last one here. Kalia, thanks so much for that. I appreciate that super chat. Amy, I'm not quite sure what that means. But hey, it's all good. All right. Okay, so we'll wrap it up. Oh, I guess, okay, there we go. Kalen didn't post his question. Okay, so the question is, what happens to an open work permit applied under TR to PR if TR to PR application gets rejected? If the work permit has been issued, it doesn't cancel the work permit. So same rules apply. If you've been issued if you've been issued one of the special open work permits and you have it in your hand, then that work permit is not going to expire. If you do not yet have it and the application is rejected, then it is possible that obviously the work permit will never be issued to you. But if it's been issued, then you're fine. All right. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Canadian Immigration Live Q&A. Remember, the immigration news reports are going to start coming out fast and furiously. If you have a news item that you want to share, make sure that you post it to me via email, and I'll make sure that we, let's see, when is the next mega draw? I don't think we're going to see another mega draw for a long time, my friend. Send me an email and then I'll give you credit in the news report. Remember that I'm glad I'm not posting all the comments. Be kind, everybody. Be kind. Okay, going forward, like I said, when it comes to the things that I have going on that are designed to help you guys, absolutely, the Canadian Immigration Institute, this is the source where you guys can go to get the help that you can trust. Now, obviously, I've got courses on just a ton of different topics. Express Entry is launching October the 18th. Please join. They have master classes associated with them. The TR to PR pathway doesn't, but it's closing. There's still 50% off. Remember, the beginning of November, it comes to a close. If you have French, then there is absolutely no harm in proceeding down this path. So make sure that you consider that. The spousal is coming soon. Why is it stalled out? Because of, I wonder if I have that notification. I don't. The reason it's stalled out is because now it's online. And so I decided, instead of producing one that's paper-based, that we're going to shift it and move it over to the online portal, where many of the applications now people are being encouraged to file through the new PR portal. So the course is going to be based on that. The LMIA course is live and available. PR card renewal is also in the works. So if you'd like to, you can save your spot for these. These ones will have a masterclass associated with them when I launch them. And yeah, so there we go. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. It was great having you here on another Canadian Immigration Live Q&A. I'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place, 10 a.m. And for sure, you'll see me again here on the channel as I release news updates and other information on Canadian immigration. Take care, everyone. We'll see you later.